The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
The story is written by the person himself that it happened to. His name is Rabbi Einfeld. He is I don't know if he still is, but he was, or still is, what we would call the administrator of the famous Koil Chazanish in Bnei Brak, where huge Talmid Chachamim Gedolei Yisrael in Eichos and in Kamos learned there, and he sets up the financial situation for the monthly chalukah, for the monthly stipends. Once in Simchas Torah, again 25 years ago, he was saying Hallel Shmini Atzeres in the morning. As we know in Eretz Yisrael, Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah are the same day. There's only one day. And during the Hallel of Shmini Atzeres / Simchas Torah, as he was saying the pasuk Yasor Yisrani Kohav Lamavis Loina Sanani, that's what he writes, he started feeling tremendous pain in one of his feet. The pain, within the next short period of time, not days, not even hours, became immensely impossible to hold out. Excruciating pain. He sat down. He told the Gabba, don't even consider to give me a hakafah today. I cannot dance. I cannot even walk. I can't trust myself with a Sefer Torah in my hands. He begged someone to please go out and find him in a chesed agency a wheelchair. He should be able to sit in the wheelchair and at least appreciate the hakafas, the rest of the davening, obviously, from within the confines, within the walls of the Besek Knesset that he was davening. The Yisurim got worse and worse. He was wheeled home in a wheelchair. He was put into his bed. Matzah Yontif, he sent someone to call doctors, try to have a house call. It was impossible for him to get out, even to be driven to a doctor's office. He could not find, at that time, a doctor to make a house call. They did more work and they were able to get the next day an appointment with a doctor. Tishlapsach to the doctor's office. He had no choice, and in tremendous Yisurim, which he had no respite, no let up, he was driven to the doctor's office with his last koiches. He made his way in, and the doctor examined him on the examination table. Back and forth. He says, I don't know what this is. We need to take imaging. And they took imaging, and the doctor basically, after reading these images, gave him his worst fears. He said he has a terrible machla that's eating away, and that's the cause, and obviously it's a very serious situation. It was terrible. He was sent home. Doctor prescribed some painkillers. The painkillers were not helping. And he decided to reach out to the famous Melech Führer to ask him if he has any ideas for him. So Rabbi Führer told him, I will send you to a different doctor. They made an appointment and they went to the other doctor. The other doctor checked them out, started laughing, and said, forget about the diagnosis that you were given. Leidubim v'layar doesn't start. There's no terrible illness in you. There's something wrong in your spine. And you will need injections for 6 weeks. And thereafter, up to a year of therapy. But you're not a dying person. You're not in danger of dying. So the simcha was tremendous. Obviously, the B'sura Tova that he doesn't have a life-threatening condition. But for the next 6 weeks, so he asks the doctor, how long will the pain be? He says, 6 weeks. He says, what? He says, 6 weeks, this is what it is, this is what it should be. Listen, at least he's not dying. He's gonna have to go through Gehenna. Yisurim. Yasa Yisrani Ko. Exactly when it started, during the Hallel. But he's not dying. He continues and he writes, he came home. He was, a couple of days later, it was Thursday morning. He was in Nebayis. But they're going shopping. We have to go shopping for Shabbos. So he tells them, no one is coming to visit me anyway now. If someone's gonna knock on the door, I don't want to be bothered to try to go to the door, to open the door. Just please leave the house and lock it from the outside. I shouldn't be able to open it up from inside. This way I know someone comes, I don't feel bad. I could stay in my laying position, which is at least somewhat comforting, as opposed to getting up and whatever it takes. So he told her to do that, and she did. She locked the door from outside, and he had no key. If he wanted to get out, he could not get out, because it wasn't negayah to him. He's not getting out anyway. A little bit later, she's away from the house. The bell rings, and rings again, and rings again, and rings again. And he doesn't answer. He's not bothering. He can't. He's not capable. Then, banging, loud banging with a hand, with a fist on the door, again and again and again. And he realized there's something here that's not regular. And he should address this person who's at the door. Obviously something is important. Something is not regular. So he screams out from his bed, who's there? And through the door he hears the response. Shaya Epstein. He's the driver of a Chaim Kanievsky. And he tells him through the door that the Rav is here to visit you. To Mivaka Chayla. He says, the Rav is here to visit? Yeah, he wants to come up. He wants to come up the steps, a lot of steps, to the apartment where he lived. He wants to come visit you. Everything fell away, was pain and whatever. He jumped out of bed, whatever pain he had, and he starts looking, maybe there is an extra duplicate of the key left somewhere in his pockets, in his jacket, in a drawer. He looks and he looks and he looks, forgets about his pain. He cannot find the key. So he says to the person at the door, he says, I'm so sorry. He says, I can't open up. I don't have the key. Okay. 2 minutes later, the person comes up again, knocks at the door and says, the Rav wants to speak to you through the door, with the door closed, obviously. I told him the conversation we had. So the Rav said, how did you have the conversation if he can't open the door? He said, we did it through the door. So Chaim said, fine. So let me also be Mevakeh Chaylim through the door. And the Rav is coming up. And when he gets up, the Shai Epstein says through the door, the Rav is here. This Nosen Einfeld got his way close to the door, and he started with big pains and a pained voice and crying. I have tremendous Yisurim, I need a refuah shalema. And Chaim says to him, Be'ez Hashem, you should have a refuah shalema, and again and again. Sei gesund. And that was the end of the conversation. He knew that Chaim was going to be outside in a minute. He trudged in his Yisurim to the porch, where it's called a merpeset, to see. And he comes to the merpeset, and Chaim is leaving, and he's getting into the car, and he looks up, and he sees him, and Chaim says again, refuah shalema. And Rabbi Seinfeld says, they left, and he turns around to go back, and he just doesn't believe what he's witnessing. The pain is gone. He's walking. And he says, 1 second. I was just in immeasurable, in unsustainable Yisurin. What happened? And again, is this true? And he walks more, and he walks more. There is no pain. He says, L'yomaki is super. He was so besimcha, he started dancing. And dancing. And dancing. And at that point, his nebayis came home, and she unlocks the door, and she sees him dancing. And she says, what? So, as a joke, she asked him, who was here? He says, that's a joke. A doctor was here. A doctor with the Koyach HaTorah. She says, what? He says, I'm just joking. Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky was just there. And he wished me on a refusalem. They couldn't believe it. It was over. He calls up the Shai Epstein and tells him, you won't believe what happened. This is what happened. Shai Epstein went over to Rabbi Chaim and he told him the neurotic news. And Rabbi Chaim in his Anivis said, no, Chazal say, Al tehi birchas hetit kala be'enecha. He was so humble. He was so humble. A few days later, Rabbi Seinfeld came personally to Rabbi Chaim. And he tells Rabbi Chaim, it's noy what he was and what he is. And he thanked him, He was crying, mitach simcha. And Rabbi Chaim tells him again in his humbleness, it's not a meifes. The Gemara says, in Masechet Avodah Zarah, that when the Eibishter sends a sickness upon someone, there is a decree for how long it will be. At exact time, date and time that it will leave, the sickness will leave the person. Via what modality it will leave. Doctors, medicines, or whatever. He says, the time came just when I walked up the steps coincidentally. At that time was the time that had been nigzel l'chatchila that it should leave you. Total anivis. So this is one angle of the story on the tremendous anivis of Rabbi Chaim.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org